Hello everyone, my name is Pat. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm doing the part 2 of my favorite books of the year. I already did my top books. These are also some of my favorites, and these are going to be focusing on books that surprised me the most this year. Alright, so the first one is going to be Winter Keep by Kristen Cashore. This is the 4th book in the Graceling Realm series. I don't know how many books are going to be in here because the first 2 books were released years ago, and then the 3rd book was released like a few years after the 2nd book was out, and then Winter Keep is the newest release, which was released I think this year. I'm not sure if we're going to expand even more in this series, but these are a series of mostly companion novels. I would say the 3rd and the 4th flew more into a timeline. It's a little bit of a mixed timeline because the 2nd book is like a before the first one. Anyway, I really enjoy this one because I remember reading Bitter Blue years ago and being a little bit disappointed with it because I didn't connect with the characters as much. The writing is still beautiful. The world has expanded, but I didn't really connect with the characters very much. So I went in this one carefully with no high expectations, and just like with the 3rd book, I love how we expanded the world even more. It has so many things that have been added to the story, and I feel like we could get more in this world and explore a little bit more in this world as well. I love the multiple POVs this time. I ended up caring a lot for the characters that we have here, and each of the characters are so distinct and so compelling to read from. I enjoyed the complexities of the different characters, so I really enjoyed this one. Surprised me because I wasn't expecting very much from this one, and it felt different from the 1st and the 2nd book in that it has a more present kind of feel in the storyline because it has a big time skip from the 1st and the 2nd book, and I really love the new characters that we have in here. Next is The Lady of Rooksgrave Manor by Kathryn Moon. This is the 1st book in her series Tempting Monsters, and the 2nd book is coming out I think in March of this year, and I'm looking forward to that one. But the reason why I was so surprised with this one is because this is a very spicy, pretty much erotica, reverse harem featuring monsters, and it's my first time reading a book that's like truly reverse harem. I have heard of reverse harem and I've read stories that are tagged as reverse harem, and they're more in manhwa forms. And usually in those manhwa forms, yes, there are a lot of guys who like the girl, but the girl usually ends up with just one person. But with this one, she's together with all of them at the same time. And I wasn't sure if it was going to be something that I will like, if I will enjoy, especially with them being monsters as well. So cautiously went into this one as well, and I ended up loving it. I loved the writing for this one because this is a historical fiction kind of setting. It is fantasy, but the writing fit that timeline so well. It was very captivating, and I enjoyed seeing the relationship that the main character has with the 5 guys grow. And I believed the characters. I believe that she was falling for each of the characters, but it's all very different. It's all love, you know? So I was really surprised, and I really enjoyed this one. So definitely looking forward to the 2nd book. I know that we are going to be following a different character for that one, so we'll see. I'm excited. The next one is The Hartman Symbol by Helen Huang. I wouldn't put this one in here if it was very similar to the first 2 books that I really, really enjoyed. That is also part of the reason why I understand why some people didn't like this one. It has a lot of mixed reviews. A lot of people love it, but a lot of people also didn't like it. It wasn't for them because I feel like a lot of people's expectation is this is going to be a very heavily romantic book and will have, you know, a good bit of spice in there, just like the first 2 books in the series. That was completely understandable. I went into this book expecting the same things, but this became a lot heavier and a lot more personal for me, and that's why I was surprised with this book, because of how much it became so emotional and personal, because I felt like Anna's story was my story too. I related to her so much, her struggles, her relationship with her family, with herself, with her passions, and the way that she moves around this world. And yes, I love Kwan, and I was very much looking forward to seeing him fall in love and have his love story with like the nice steamy parts, because he's pretty much my favorite character in this entire series. Even so, I still fell for Anna, and I feel so protective of her because she feels like a mirror of myself too. Although yes, I do wish we had gotten a little bit more in the romance between the 2. I still really love this one, but they're so cute. I still really enjoy the romance aspect of this one, even though it definitely took a step back from, especially compared to the first 2 books. A lot of people were saying that they were expecting this to be a rom-com, and I never really viewed the other 2 books as rom-coms. Like, they're not comedic. They've never been comedic to me. There's funny, cute moments, but I wouldn't say they're like rom-coms, more like just contemporary romances. And this one is more, again, I guess literary fiction, women's fiction, than it is a true romance book, which again, I went into this one with the same thoughts, but I guess, you know, my personal feelings and the way I related to Anna made me love this book really so. The next one is a YA book. This is Eat Your Heart Out by Kelly Davis. This is an arc that I read, sent to me by Penguin Teen, and this is a YA zombie apocalypse book. And I was expecting this to be a light, fun, adventurous type of book. Some aspects of horror and supernatural that I would happily recommend to someone who's looking for a light, fun, but also has that horror supernatural element in it. But although this was still light, this was still fun, it's not super light. It deals with a lot of really heavy topics, and it made me cry. It made me cry. It made me very emotional at the end. It made me feel a lot of emotions at the end. There is an amazing friendship formed between the characters here who meet at a weight loss camp. You know, it became kind of like a found family, and I ended up caring for each of the characters. Even that one character that I did not expect to care for, I did. And by the end of the story, I wanted at least just like a novella, a little bit more of what will happen at the end, because I feel like they needed to enact some sort of revenge to serve justice, because they deserve it. They've gone through a lot. So, Eat Your Heart Out by Kelly Davis. Amazing friendship. Each of the characters have their own layered stories and complexities, and I cared for all of them. And I need to know that they are able to get the justice that they deserve. I need to know. I know that this is standalone, but... Next one is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I know that I should have put this in my top books as well, but I wanted to discuss this here and why it was a surprising book for me to read, because I read Beach Read as well. And I was expecting to love that because a lot of people put Beach Read and People We Meet on Vacation at kind of like the same tier, like they love it. But I didn't love it as much as other people did. Although yes, I did enjoy it. But this one was different for me. I went into this very carefully, very cautiously, because I was starting to think, oh, maybe Emily Henry is a type of, you know, kind of like Colleen Hoover, where a lot of people love her books, but I just cannot get into her books. I will be trying to read her books again, but I thought it was going to be like that, where I will be one of those people who her writing isn't just for me because of Beach Read. And I've read A Million Junes, which I also really enjoyed, but this was different. I love these characters. I love them so much. And I know you know if you have watched my other videos where I talked about this. I love it when I go into a story and I read the characters, I read them falling in love, and I just see them as soulmates. Like, that's one of my favorite things. Like, I end up seeing them as soulmates. Because they are. They really are. They work so well together. And I've said this before, I've said it a few times talking about this book, but the way I see and view love is portrayed almost perfectly in this book by both characters. And I love this. I love this so much. I love it so much. Like, I don't know if you can see it, I have tabs. I use my book darts on this. I have tabs. I have tabs of different quotes, different moments. I just love this book so much. It's a very personal kind of love too. So I understand why some people would not like love this the way I do, because it is a more personal type of thing for me. So, and yes, of course, I'm looking forward to reading Book Lovers. Next one, The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. So this is another one where the characters are soulmates, and like that's the idea of this story. It's following a single mom who reluctantly gives her DNA to this up-and-coming dating service where they match your genes to somebody that they think will be her soulmate. And she matches with one of the co-founders of this program, of this app, and they go and date and see if they are actually soulmates. So I also went into this one with really no expectations. You know, I wasn't really into romance contemporary, especially around the time that I read this one. I was still only getting into it. By the end of this year, the end of last year, I was into contemporary romance. But before this, I was very skeptical going to this one. I thought I would find this, you know, it was fun, it was good, I enjoyed it, but, you know, it's not going to be, like, amazing. And I found the romance so cute. I loved each of the characters and following how they fall in love and get to know each other. It felt, even though they started dating mainly because the program said that they were a match, it still felt like really genuine on their part, and that they really were getting to know each other, and they both have reservations about it. And I really like that, because they're not going into this one, or at least one of them is not going into this one with super high expectations and expecting like a great romantic love story. They both were very skeptical, even the co-founder, because he's not a very emotional person, even though ironically he's working for something. It's like Tinder but scientific. kind of thing. So, and she's also into data and analytics. They're both very skeptical, so I just really enjoyed seeing them falling in love. And my favorite part of this one, which is usually my least favorite part in any romance books that I've read, is the main conflict, or that last bit of conflict by the end of the book. I love the way it was handled. I love the way that both characters ended up having like a full, deep conversation where they laid everything out, all the things that they were thinking throughout the time that they were getting to know each other, that they were dating, their fears, their reluctances, their just worries, and just they talked through it, and they made sure that each other is in a good place and they're both okay, and just fully resolved, or at least resolved in the best way that they can in the moment, and they both feel okay with it. And it just was handled really well. Just that communication part, because that's one thing with a lot of romance novels now. Most of the time, the conflict is part of the miscommunication trope type thing. This one isn't really miscommunication, but there is a little bit of it. But I love the way that they handle it. I love the way that they resolved it. I really appreciate it, and it just made me love these characters even more together, because they really were willing to put everything out and air everything out without having it fester even longer and have another miscommunication or a bigger miscommunication in the future. Just handled very well. They felt like actual adults in the communication part of it. So Soulmate Equation, another Christina Lauren, is Love in Other Words. Now, I heard a lot of good things about this one, and it was a backlist too. It's not a recent release, so I was even more intrigued reading and going to this one, but also very carefully going into this, because again, I was still getting into contemporary romances, adult contemporary romances, and I was just unsure. I may have had like a few here and there romances that I enjoyed, but I was still being very, because it wasn't a genre that I find myself into yet at that point that I read this. And this is another one where the characters are soulmates for me, and this is actually a friends, like childhood friends to lovers, to estranged friends, to tentative lovers, to of course lovers at the end. And the main conflict and the resolution for this one as well, in my opinion, was executed exceptionally. Especially because we didn't get a reveal of what happened 10 years ago when they stopped talking, what happened to end their relationship, because they've seemed like, especially we're following them slowly getting to know each other as they were kids and falling in love. And seeing them falling in love, it felt like, what could have happened in 10 years ago that made them stop talking to each other? Made them end their relationship, because it felt like that kind of relationship where we just can't see them breaking apart. When we got to that reveal and how they became estranged, it was so emotional. I was crying a lot at that reveal. I mean, I cry very easily, but it was just very heavy and very emotional. If you read this one, you know exactly how heavy and emotional it is, and how it made sense what happened now. Like, what happened 10 years ago and why they haven't talked in those 10 years, even though it felt like, what could have happened? Like, it didn't seem like anything could have happened to them that will make them break apart. My heart was aching and breaking for these two people, and they love each other so much, and I feel like that's more so the reason why they hurt each other so much as well. And the way that all of it at the end was resolved felt like very human to me, like very real. It's very messy. It's not cut and dried resolution. There's still a lot of things, there's still a lot of healing that they both need to do separately and together, even after they have mostly resolved the thing. There's still a lot of healing, and it's just beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's a love story, honestly. These three actually are love stories. They're love stories. Wow. They're kind of the same colors, aren't they? The same color range, the orange and yellows. Anyway, they're great. They're amazing. The Star-Crossed Sisters of Tuscany. I read this one earlier this year, and I still remember being so emotional about this one. Now, I knew going into this one, this was going to be more of an adult, like coming of age, like literary fiction type thing. And I enjoy those things, and I appreciate a lot of literary fictions. But again, it's not really my genre. It's not my type of genre, like fantasy is. So even though I enjoy a lot of works, I never like love any book in that genre, just because it's not my genre. But this book, I knew that there's going to be a little bit of romance in here. It's probably going to be cute and fluffy and more like an open-ended type thing, but it's going to be focusing mostly on the coming of age of the characters here, because we are following this family who apparently has a cursed generations ago, where the second daughter of the family is always doomed to have a very lonely life. And the second daughters, like different generations for this family, decide to go to Tuscany, to Italy, to try to break this spell. So again, I thought it will have, a few personal hits. I might get a little bit emotional, maybe even get teary-eyed, made me cry a little bit. But this made me sob in the last 150 pages. Like I was sobbing non-stop during the last 150 pages. And it's that kind of that painful crying, I just want everybody to be happy. I just want these characters to be happy because they deserve it type of crying. And there is a beautiful love story in here that was executed in a very unexpected way that just made it even more emotional. So I love this book a lot, so much. I want to reread the last few bits of it because I feel like that's the best part of the story and that's where I was crying. But I want to go into that, you know, not crying because I literally was like sobbing and I couldn't get myself it took a while for me to like get myself settled down after reading this book because yeah, it was just that emotional and painful for me. The next one is Ivies by Alexa Dunn. I went into this one with no expectations as well. I've heard probably like one person talk about this one because it was a new release when I read it. And I thought it was going to be that, you know, fun, slightly dark, slightly dramatic type of academic rivalry story. It is. It has a like kind of light dark academia type thing because of the academic rivalry and the murder that has happened in here, but I really love the beautifully complicated friendships in here. It's not the type of friendship that I would want to have, but it's very interesting and intriguing to read about because it's toxic, yes, it's layered, but there's bits of sincerity and like just true friendship sprinkled in there, and it's like following these characters that are definitely morally gray because the things that they resort to because of the cutthroat like academic rivalry that they're in to get into the schools that they want is wild. Especially with the reveal. Also that like last part of it, like the ending part, was really unexpected. It also makes sense, like complete sense, especially with that character where we ended. I think it's one of those endings that a lot of people will not like or will not sit well with them, but to me it made sense. I wouldn't say that I would condone it or it's something that I think they should have done, you know, morally, but it made sense for the characters. So The Sandon Motel by Simone St. James. This was dark, creepy, scary, and I enjoyed it. I love dark and creepy, scary books, even though I'm a scaredy cat, but I just love them. The atmosphere, the vibes, it's great. If it works really well, that means that it's very well done because it's transportive. You literally feel creeped out. And to me, this was this book. And this is the kind of dual timeline that worked and was done really, really well. It gave us a lot, but still kept enough to make us question a lot of things and to have that great unraveling by the end of it still. So it doesn't feel like we're purposefully not getting the entire story with the dual timelines, especially the past timeline. We're getting what we need and enough of it, but still have that intrigue that will really keep us going, but will not frustrate us. For me personally, you know, I don't know why I'm saying us, but you know what I'm trying to say. And it's just super atmospheric. I love the way we got, again, that slow building and unraveling by the end with the reveals and stuff. I just really enjoyed this book. And again, very surprising because I went into this one expecting, oh, this is going to be a fun atmospheric ride. Maybe I'll get a little bit scared, but you know, it wasn't, I didn't expect it to be as impactful and as enjoyable as it did. So, Sandon Motel, I'm definitely looking forward to the author's next book, by the way, because it's also dual timeline, I think. And it's following a convicted murderer who got free and a book blogger who again interviews this person. I'm looking forward to it. I talked about it in my 2022 releases, I think. So, yeah. Next one, All the Stars and Teeth duology. So I have All the Stars and Teeth, All the Tides of Fate by Adalyn Grace. Again, I went into this one with no expectations. I thought it was going to be something that I will enjoy, something that I will have a lot of fun reading, but I didn't expect to love this one, and I really, really did. And this is another one that it's super atmospheric. It's the grimdark fantasy. We are following a lot of morally gray characters, and there is found family in here as well with those morally gray characters. And there is what do you call it? The kind of magic where there's consequential magic, I think. Is that a term? I'm not sure, but it's a magic where it's not very easy to access. There's a certain type of thing that you have to do to be able to use that magic. There is a cursed, charming pirate, a vengeful siren, and just the whole found family is my favorite. There is unique magic, and the world building was also really great. And I feel like this is the type of world where there is so much that we can explore in the world if we if you were going to get another book in this series. Also, the second book broke me. This is another book that made me cry, and I kind of hate and love the author for what they did at the last part because I was in pain. I really was. I don't want to say anymore and compare it to another book that is very similar because I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, because I really ended up caring for these characters and their relationship and, you know, their troubles and their own worries. I just cared for them a lot, so yeah. Next one. The last one that we have. Again, this is in no particular order. I love all of these books and they surprise me in the best kinds of ways. Last one, Beasts of Extraordinary Circumstance by Ruth Emily. This is usually magical realisms are hits and misses for me. I want to love them, but usually they end up, you know, 50-50 hits, 50-50 misses. This one is definitely a hit for me. This is a kind of magical realism where I didn't need the explanation of the magic. It's unexplained and unexplored. I didn't feel it lacking, or I didn't feel the need to want to know more because this story isn't really about that magic, even though that it is present. This is the story of our main character and his life, and it's a story of friendship, of family, of love, and finding your place in the world and humanity. And the ending was so bittersweet. It was so well deserved because the main character that we're following here is so loving and so deserving of love as well, and I just feel so tenderly softly and dearly towards him. You know, that kind of things where this character feels like such a precious human being, and I just want him to be happy and loved for the rest of his life because of all the things that he's gone through, because of his eccentricities and how that has been viewed throughout the years. And it's like he never really found where he belonged in the world, especially with who he belongs with. It's that type of thing where to him it won't matter where he is in the world as long as he has those people that he knows he can always go to and feel safe and comfortable with, because 99% of the people that who will see him won't really hate him, but won't really be so loving and accepting of him because of his eccentricities, you know? So I love him. So those are all of the most surprising books of 2021 for me, and hopefully this year we'll have these types of books as well for me, where I would have different expectations or no expectations, or where it exceeded the type of expectations that I have. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what books surprised you this year, books that you surprisingly loved, maybe even surprisingly hated, I don't know. That is it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on my next one.